Bombing Damascus, taking a photo with the Israeli flag on Syrian territory is a provocative way to greet the new regime on its first day. I assume that Israeli decision makers have already calculated that they can't have peace with any regime in Syria and are sending a message.
Golan Heights area, and during the last year is understood to have carried out several airstrikes on groups which support Hamas and Hezbollah as its wars in Gaza and then Lebanon were underway. The Israeli military is also reported to have struck Syrian military compounds near Damascus early today, including weapons depots. The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu posted these comments on the fall of the Assad regime in Syria to his social media accounts.
This is a historic day for the Middle East. The collapse of the Assad regime, the tyranny in Damascus, offers great opportunity, but also is fraught with significant dangers. This collapse is a direct result of our forceful action against Hezbollah and Iran.
I also do hate that he's so happy about this.
It does benefit him. Instability in the axis of resistance supply chain, regardless of Assad's lack of interest in helping Palestinians, instability in the axis of resistance supply chain is good for Israel. So for him, this is fantastic. They've crippled Hezbollah's leadership. They've bombed every fucking, Shia village in southern Lebanon. So now the Lebanese economy is already destroyed. And now they have to do a period of reconstruction to make sure that that people can still survive in that area. And now the last vector of instability, a massive country in the region, that was utilized as a part of the Iranian supply chain, is no longer controlled by a guy who is somewhat unstable from his perspective.
Assad's main supporters. It set off a chain reaction of all those who want to free themselves from this tyranny and its suppression. But it also means we have to take action against possible threats. One of them is the collapse of the Separation of Forces Agreement from 1974 between Israel and Syria. This agreement held for 50 years. Last night it collapsed. The Syrian army abandoned its positions. We gave the Israeli army the order to take over these positions to ensure that no hostile force embeds itself right next to the border of Israel. This is a temporary defensive position until a suitable arrangement is found.
Soon before Erdogan's assault in Syria, Netanyahu literally threatened Assad and his beast, saying he's playing with fire. Yeah, because Erdogan and Benjamin Netanyahu are this, bro. This. They are. Recep Tayyip Erdogan is a servant of Western interests. It does not matter that he plays both sides. It does not matter that he has trade relations with Russia. It doesn't matter that he has trade relations with China. Recep Tayyip Erdogan oversees the second largest military in NATO. Recep Tayyip Erdogan oversees America's nuclear arsenal in the Incirlik base. Anyone that tries to tell you that Recep Tayyip Erdogan and Benjamin Netanyahu are not directly aligned, only hear what he has to say in public, and he has all the smoke for Israel in public. He always says, like, fuck you, Israel. You are Netanyahu. He says a number of different things. And yet, the oil and gas that Israel needs to power its energy grid, I believe around 30% of it still comes through Azerbaijan, through Turkish ports, directly into Israeli ports, or directly through pipelines. Israel uses a radar in Turkey to protect the sky, that too. Turkey has also always trained Israeli Air Force fighters. That is incorrect. No, it's not. It is not incorrect at all. You are just oblivious.
Equally, we send a hand of peace to all those beyond our border in Syria, to the Druze, to the Kurds, to the Christians, and to the Muslims who want to live in peace with Israel. We're going to follow events very carefully. If we can establish neighborly relations and a peaceful relations with the new forces emerging in Syria, that's our desire. But if we do not, we'll do whatever it takes to defend the state of Israel and the border.
Well, that was Benjamin Netanyahu. Well, let me go now to Charles Lister, who is in Doha. Sorry, we're going to go to our guest in a moment. First of all, let's hear from John Donaldson, who's got...
Charles Lister is the guy that's like moderate jihadis guy. I mean, his analysis on Palestine is really good. But on Syria, he's a little bit, I don't know. He hates Muslims, dude. This motherfucker's Islamophobic as fuck. I hope karma catches up. There's no such thing.
This analysis of Netanyahu's statement from Jerusalem.
Evil always thrives, chatter. There's no karma catching up. It's funny to see cabinet ministers saying this occupied region is a security belt from Syria to the Golan Heights because the whole justification for occupying it, yeah, exactly. The whole justification for occupying and annexing the Golan Heights is that Golan Heights is a security belt for northern Israel. We're doing security belt inception. No, it's the same tactic. It's always the same tactic. You go in, you say we have real security concerns. We have people living there. We have real security concerns. We have to push the boundary. Then you annex that boundary that you pushed, okay? Then you repopulate that area. You repopulate the area with more settlers. Then now you have security concerns. You have to expand further. In the words of that other guy who wrote the Times of Israel article before they took it down, Lebensraum. That was literally the fucking argument that the dude was making. Yeah. Amid the chaos, the Israeli Air Force carried out numerous strikes in Syria today, taking out weaponry Israel fears could fall in the hands of hostile forces. According to the reports in Syria, strikes earlier targeted ammunition and weapons depots at the Kalkala Air Base in Suwaida, several sites in the Daraa Governorate, and the Mezeh Air Base in Damascus. This afternoon, additional strikes were reported at the Mezeh Air Base, a major security complex in the Kafr Souza suburb of the capital, a branch of the Scientific Studies and Research Center in Damascus, and a central square in the capital that includes intelligence and customs headquarters. This is from Times of Israel military correspondent Manny Fabian. Following the fall of the Assad regime, the IDF has said that it is tracking advanced weapons in Syria and working to prevent them from reaching Hezbollah or any other hostile elements that could threaten Israel. So yes, this is absolutely working in favor of Benjamin Netanyahu.
Well, look, after the last 14 months, Israel has a lot on its plate, but it is definitely concerned about what's happening in Syria. And I think this, basically, they are saying that they are going to seize this buffer zone that has existed between the Golan Heights and occupied Golan Heights in Syria. They're going to seize those positions. And I think ordinarily that would have been seen as hugely provocative, but certainly from Israel's perspective at the moment, it is understandable. I mean,
someone look up a map of Greater Israel and you will understand which direction people are heading in. Now, if you were to say this, for the record, if you were to say this like, I don't know, 10 fucking years ago, I think that there was more of a reason to be skeptical of that. If someone were to be like, oh, they want to do Greater Israel, I'd be like, I don't know about that. Nowadays, I feel like, I mean, look, Euphrates to the Nile. Look at that. This guy is not a random dipshit, okay? I mean, he is a dipshit, but he's not a random dipshit. That is the finance minister of Israel, Bezalel Smotrich, describing the aspirations of Greater Israel. Yes, the Nile River, in between the Nile River and the Euphrates. This is the map of Greater Israel. Sometimes you'll see this patch on soldiers' arms on the Israeli occupying force. It happens to feature most of Syria, half of Iraq, all of Jordan, all of Lebanon, parts of Turkey as well. This is what it looks like in terms of the patches. Parts of, obviously, Egypt too. I believe it's also in the Likud Charter too. Yeah, also Saudi Arabia to a certain, Saudi Arabia too. Where does this originate from? I think it originates, I don't know. I mean, it's like the Bible, I think. I don't fucking know. Well, for evangelical Christians, they believe that the Greater Israel, like this land between the Euphrates and the Nile River, belongs to only Jews. And when it is only populated by Jews, they will, the Armageddon will happen. Jesus Christ will come back to Megiddo and fight Satan's forces in Megiddo, and all of the evangelical Christians will be sucked into the heavens, and everyone else that is not a good evangelical Christian will burn in eternal hell. This, of course, includes the Jews that are in between that area, but the trigger event is for them to populate this entire area so that this anime supervillain style fight can happen. I think they're mostly focusing on their political capital on northern Gaza as far as settlements go at the moment. Some groups do photo shoots in southern Lebanon and left, but northern Gaza and the Netzarim corridor are where our eyes should aim at right now as far as that goes. Yes. I mean, I think like the reasonable thing, well, it's still unreasonable, but what they will be allowed to do is most likely populate North Gaza. As I have said, as they've shown their interest in bringing in settlers and utilizing the occupied or the currently ethnically cleansed parts of North Gaza and repopulate it with settlers. So they're already doing that.
They are very concerned about who these rebels are. They're concerned about...
Oh, yeah. Jay-Z is accused of sexually assaulting a 13-year-old in a 2000 incident along Sean Diddy Combs in an amendment lawsuit. We'll take a look at that in a little bit.
Chemical weapons falling into the wrong hands, and they don't want the rebels operating right on their border. So, you know... Look,
this is bullshit. They didn't have rebels operating right in their border as a concern at all before. They literally welcomed it. So the notion that they now have an issue with the rebels operating on the border is bullshit. Here is senior editor of 972 magazine, okay, Ben Reif. With Assad gone, Israeli forces are currently seizing the buffer zone between Syria and the Israeli-occupied Golan Heights, which has been in place for half a century. The army has also been instructed to occupy control points, while ministers are calling to occupy Mount Hermon. Saudi media is reporting that the Syrian side of Mount Hermon, Jabal al-Sheikh, is now under Israeli control. And there it is. They got the flag out and everything.
Look, Israel is fighting wars in Gaza. The one in Lebanon has only just finished, but it does seem like it's willing to engage with Syria as well. We've just had a note from the IDF warning people in 5 villages in southern Syria to stay indoors for their own safety because Israel could be preparing to make strikes there. Israel has had a very ambiguous relationship with the Syrian regime up until now, and it's one that really indicates the complex web of networks and political allegiances in the region. So for a long time, after the Arab uprising in Syria back in 2011, 2012, Israel basically wanted the status quo. They're no great friend of Bashar al-Assad, but they calculated that a man who was allied with Hezbollah, a man who was allied with Iran, Israel's 2 arguably greatest enemies along with Hamas, they calculated that Bashar al-Assad was better than what might come next. Well, now we've got what's come next, and Israel is going to have to make the calculation of what kind of Syria it wants, and if they don't get the Syria they want, how will they respond?
Bombing Damascus, taking a photo with the Israeli flag on Syrian territory is a provocative way to greet the new regime on its first day. I assume that Israeli decision makers have already calculated that they can't have peace with any regime in Syria and are sending a message. I mean, I think they're just flexing. Hey, if you like this video, please subscribe and hit that bell so you don't miss out on any future videos.